I think that's a pretty magical thing, and a good, clear connection between the arts and sciences. What can I answer for you? Any questions?
What do you usually have to have a degree in to do a job like this? Is it architect? Is it engineering?
I've got a couple of degrees in architecture, and a lot of people, maybe a lot of people's the wrong choice of words, but I think some people avoid architecture because they think it's really math heavy. It's surprisingly not. You have to take the calculus sequence to go to architecture school, but I've never used any of it, not a bit. I've never used anything from calculus in what I do day to day.
So it's only architect degrees, or do you have engineering degrees in here?
I took engineering classes as part of what I did, which is part of the curriculum, but it's not an engineering degree. There are people that have gotten both architectural and engineering degrees, but you don't need it. Typically, we hire out our engineering services because they're complicated. So we're about putting a building together, and we use specialists in other fields to sort of contribute pieces to the puzzle, and the engineering is one of them.
How much hand drawing do you now do compared to computer drawing?
Not enough. When I started, I spent 10 years in the Marine Corps before I figured out I was going to be an architect. And when I started 25 years ago, we drew everything. And it was pencil and graphite. And then, because I went to fussy schools, we did most of our finished work was done ink on vellum. So to do big, sophisticated architectural drawing in ink is a really tedious and painstaking process, which, strangely, I liked at times. But now I rarely draw in that way. In fact, if you want to see the way we work now, I can show you. This is stuff I'm working on. It'll take me just a second, so bear with me. I don't have enough mouse.
So how much art did you take art, or did you just mainly?
Well, I was sort of blessed, and the reason is that I had a lot of, from my undergraduate degree, I had a lot of advanced credit. 5 minutes, okay? I had a lot of advanced credit, so when I went to grad school, I spent about a semester in the Yale art school, and so I got to play with a lot of really talented artists, and it was a good thing. And I had always had a basis in art, so I liked that stuff. I'm trying to find this quickly for you. Here we go. Okay, so most of what we do now, can you see that? Is it up there?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, this is a very rudimentary model of a project that we're working on right now. And see all that garbage that's in here? It's fussy garbage. That's how you render planes in here. You have to draw little triangular wedges to get things to curve. So that is a working model that's intended to just understand massing and all the different components of the building and how they relate. But then we take that into a much more sophisticated rendering program, and then you can make things look real in this format. So I can put whatever level of detail I want in this. It started from the first model, it moves into this one. And I can add as much detail into that as I want. I can put drinks and people and lunch on the tables if I want. The painful part about all that is that people assume that because it's a computer doing it, it's fast and efficient, and it's not. I mean, a model like this, when it's done, will have 120 hours worth of work or so in it, and conceivably more than that, because the interior's content is in it too.
I was going to say, did you start from what you envisioned the backside to be, or the inside, and work your way out?
You start with a program. A program is sort of a list of what the building includes. And so you then sort of have to fabricate an idea of spatially of how those things fit together, and then you start drawing volumes and connecting the dots, and then adding more and more and more detail. And the model is really cool because it'll let you study just about anything. So I literally can make it get dark if I want. And when I can make it get dark, then the lights that I put in the building come on. And so I can understand how the thing gets lit. And I can then, if
the dark shadows.
Sun is up, I can move the sun to different aspects in the sky to see how the sun works. We built sun shading devices into the way the scheme works, so we can test them in real time to see how they work. And in terms of explaining to a client what they're getting, it's pretty clear. There it is. If you don't like something you see, tell us what it is, and we'll work at getting it better.
So as far as personality, are you talking most people are introverted here or extroverted, or?
I think it's a mix. you'd never guess it, but I'm sort of introverted. Like, I'm not a big social guy. I can talk. I mean, I know my job, so I can talk to y'all and explain what I'm doing, but I don't gravitate towards crowds. But I think it's just like anything else. You get a mix of people. Some are more outgoing and boisterous than others. I think you can find any component of that you want in architecture. It's a broad practice. There's a lot of different things you can do as an architect. If you're more detail-oriented, you can be a project or architect or a project manager that deals more in the minutia. I'm a designer. I like creating things. And so I'm mostly on the front end of the projects, and then the interior design work and all that stuff. That's what I like to do. But I grew up swinging a hammer. My grandpa was a carpenter, and so I know how buildings go together, and I think all of that stuff informs the practice.
Is your degree in your undergraduate in architecture, or is that a graduate?
It's an AB in architecture, and it was from WashU, and they don't have a professional undergraduate program. So I could go there, I got what I needed, and WashU is sort of a pipeline to the best colleges in the country. So you go there and you learn how to draw, how to sculpt, how to do those things related to architecture, and then the graduate schools are fired up about having you because you're from WashU. So and all of that credit that I got from WashU allowed me to do things at Yale that wasn't architecture, which was a great thing. Okay.
So your undergraduate degree is in what?
Architecture. It's a master's of architecture.
So your master's in architecture, but your undergraduate is?
Was a bachelor's degree with a major in architecture.
Oh.
But it was all, I mean, it was essentially all architecture that I'd taken, aside from my, general ed requirements. I mean, I've always liked history, so I took a lot of history classes too, but.
And that goes with it too, history.
And anybody that is creative and wants to make things would probably be a good fit for architecture. You don't make much money. I mean, don't expect to get rich as an architect. That's not going to happen. But the satisfaction is a good thing. I mean, it's a good job for me. I'm happy with what I do. It's fun. We have a big impact on a lot of people's lives. I think there's I guess it was Prince Charles, and I wouldn't normally quote Prince Charles, but I think the quote was his, and I think it's, basically, we create buildings, we shape our buildings, but then from the moment they're built, they shape us, which is actually true. I mean, the things that we make have a lot to do with the way people see and think and feel when they're doing whatever they do over the course of the day. So it's a worthwhile job.
Good.
Thank you so much for sharing
Welcome.
all this with us.
Oh my gosh.
Very interesting.
I love the change.
I like